The Last Stand. The klaxons screamed through Europa Station Omega as Commander Raven Thorn raced through the crystalline corridors, his boots echoing against the reinforced ice floors. The last human outpost on Jupiter's moon was under attack, and he had sworn it wouldn't fall on his watch. Status report. He barked into his neural comm as he reached the command center. The holographic displays showed waves of unknown vessels approaching their position, their energy signatures unlike anything in their database. "Sir, we've lost contact with the outer defense grid," Lieutenant Frost reported, her fingers dancing across the control interface. "These aren't Centaurians or Proxima Raiders. The energy patterns are completely alien." Raven studied the tactical display, his cybernetically enhanced eyes processing the data streams. Europa Station Omega housed the last quantum transmitter capable of maintaining contact with Earth's scattered colonies. If it fell, humanity's fragile network of survivors would be cut off from each other, easy prey for the hostile species that had driven them from their homeworld. A flash of movement caught his attention. Through the command center's observation dome, he spotted a figure in white moving through the hydroponics section. Impossible. That area had been evacuated hours ago. "Frost, you have command." "I need to check something," he said, already moving toward the exit. His second-in-command nodded, too focused on coordinating the defense to question his orders. The hydroponics section was a maze of transparent tubes and frozen gardens, the plants suspended in stasis until the next growing cycle. The figure he'd spotted was examining one of the frost-covered specimens, seemingly oblivious to the battle raging outside. "This is a restricted area," Raven called out, his hand resting on his pulse pistol. "Identify yourself." The figure turned, lowering her hood to reveal features that made Raven's breath catch. Her skin had an almost luminescent quality, and her eyes held depths that seemed to reflect the stars themselves. She wasn't human, at least not entirely. "I am Lyra," she said, her voice carrying an otherworldly resonance. "And you are running out of time, Commander Thorn." Before he could question how she knew his name, the station shuddered under a direct hit. Warning lights bathed the hydroponics section in crimson as the hull integrity alerts blared. Multiple breaches detected in sectors 7 through 9. Frost's voice crackled through his comm. "Unknown entities boarding through the breach points. Sir, they're unlike anything we've encountered." Raven kept his eyes on Lyra, who showed no surprise at the development. "You know what they are, don't you?" "The Void Hunters," she replied, moving closer. "They seek me, and they will not stop until they have what they came for. Your people are merely obstacles to be removed." Another explosion rocked the station. Through the transparent ceiling, Raven watched as more alien ships emerged from what appeared to be tiers in space itself, their organic-looking hulls bristling with weapons. "If they're after you, then you're coming with me," he decided, grabbing her arm. To his surprise, she didn't resist as he led her toward the emergency evacuation pods. "Commander," Frost's voice was urgent, "the quantum transmitter is failing. If we lose it, begin evacuation procedures," Raven ordered. "Get everyone to the escape pods. I'll handle the transmitter." They'd reached the junction between the hydroponics section and the central hub. The sounds of combat echoed from multiple directions: pulse fire, alien weaponry, and the screams of both humans and something decidedly not human. Lyra touched his arm, her fingers sending an electric sensation through his combat suit. "You cannot save both your station and me, Commander. The Void Hunters will not stop." Raven looked at the tactical display projected by his cybernetic implant. The quantum transmitter was failing, but it would take someone manually stabilizing it to give the evacuation pods enough time to launch. Someone would have to stay behind. "Get to evacuation pod Delta 3, he said, making his decision. "Lieutenant Frost will ensure you reach safety." "You mean to sacrifice yourself?" Lyra stated, those star-filled eyes studying him intently. "Why would you do this for a stranger?" Raven managed a grim smile. "Because it's what humans do. We protect those who need it, even if we don't know why they need protecting. The station shuddered again, and the lights flickered. Through the nearby viewport, Raven could see the Void Hunters' ships moving into position to cut off escape routes. They had minutes at most. "Go," he said, already turning toward the transmitter control room. "And Lyra, whatever you're involved in, make sure it's worth the lives being lost today." He didn't wait for her response, sprinting toward his destination. The fate of humanity's scattered colonies depended on maintaining the quantum network, and he would ensure the evacuation pods had their chance to escape. As he ran, he could have sworn he heard Lyra's voice in his mind. "Your sacrifice will not be forgotten, Commander Thorne, and you will learn that some secrets are worth dying for." Hidden truths. Consciousness returned to Raven like waves breaking against Europa's ice shores. The steady beep of medical equipment filled his ears, and the air carried an unfamiliar sweetness. This wasn't the station's medical bay. The gravity felt wrong, lighter than Europa's already gentle pull. Neural patterns stabilizing. A voice said, speaking in accents he'd never heard before, "The human's regeneration is remarkable." Raven kept his eyes closed, assessing his situation. His cybernetic enhancements were offline, but he could feel his body had been healed. The last thing he remembered was the quantum transmitter room, the controls burning under his hands as he maintained the signal long enough for the evacuation pods to escape. Then there had been a blinding light, a sensation of being pulled through space itself. "I know you're awake, Commander." Lyra's familiar voice cut through his thoughts. Your heart rate changed the moment you regained consciousness. He opened his eyes to a sight that defied explanation. The medical chamber appeared to be grown rather than built, its walls an iridescent material that pulsed with living light. Through a vast window, he could see a city that put humanity's greatest achievements to shame. Crystalline spires that stretched into violet skies, vehicles that moved through the air in perfect geometric patterns. "Where am I?" he asked, his voice rough from disuse. "What happened to the station?" Lyra stepped into view, but she was transformed. Gone was the simple white outfit from their first meeting. Now she wore flowing robes that seemed woven from starlight itself, and a delicate crown of what looked like living crystal adorned her head. Understanding dawned slowly. "You're not just Lyra, are you?" She smiled, and the room's light shifted in response to her mood. "I am Queen Lyra Stellaris of the Asterian Empire. And you, Commander Thorne, are the first human to see our homeworld in over 1,000 years." Raven tried to sit up, but his body protested. A medical attendant, a being that seemed made of living crystal and light, gently pressed him back down. "Europa Station," he insisted, "evacuated successfully, thanks to your actions." "Lyra." "No, Queen Lyra," answered. "The Void Hunters withdrew when I revealed myself. They would not dare to directly challenge the Asterian throne, even for their prize." The implications staggered him. The Asterian Empire was a myth, a story told by deep space explorers who claimed to have seen impossible things in the void between stars. They were said to be the first civilization to achieve faster-than-light travel, masters of technologies that bordered on magic. "Why reveal yourself now? Why were you on Europa Station?" Lyra moved to the window, her reflection overlapping with the alien cityscape beyond. "Because humanity is at a crossroads, Commander. What you don't know, what few in your species understand, is that you're part of an experiment that began millennia ago." She waved her hand, and the air between them filled with holographic images, Earth's history, but from an outside perspective. Raven watched as ancient civilizations rose and fell, guided by subtle influences he now recognized as Asterian in origin. "We have been watching, protecting, guiding when necessary," Lyra continued. "The hostile races that drove you from Earth, they would have annihilated humanity centuries ago, if not for our intervention. But now everything has changed." The medical attendant finished its work and withdrew, leaving them alone. Raven managed to sit up, his head spinning with revelations. "Changed how?" The Void Hunters seek something we hid on Earth before your species had even mastered fire, Lyra explained. An artifact of such power that it could reshape reality itself. We thought it would be safe there, protected by our networks of influence and humanity's own unpredictable nature. We were wrong. She turned to face him fully, and Raven saw the weight of countless years in her eyes. The hunters have found its location. They attacked Europa Station because they detected my presence, hoping to capture me and extract the information from my mind. And now they'll come for Earth. Raven finished, understanding dawning. That's why you let me rescue you. You needed to verify humanity's potential, to see if we were worth saving. Lyra's expression softened. No, Commander. I needed to understand why, despite knowing nothing about me, you would sacrifice everything to protect a stranger. That kind of nobility. It's rare in the galaxy. Rarer still among species as young as yours. She approached his bed, and the air seemed to crystallize around them. I'm offering you a choice, Commander Thorn. Return to your people with no memory of this place, or join us in our true mission, preparing humanity for a war that will determine the fate of not just Earth, but reality itself. Raven looked out at the alien city, then back to the queen who had hidden herself among humans. The choice wasn't really a choice at all. When do we begin? The royal deception. The Asterian combat simulator felt real enough to make Raven's enhanced reflexes sing with tension. Holographic void hunters materialized around him, their twisted forms more horrifying now that he understood what they truly were. Beings from beyond normal space, drawn to this reality by the promise of power. Focus. Lyra's voice guided him as she moved through the training sequence with impossible grace. Her combat form was different from human martial arts, less about physical force and more about manipulating the energy that seemed to flow through all Asterian technology. Raven adapted quickly, combining his military training with his growing understanding of Asterian capabilities. The neural upgrades they'd given him allowed him to perceive the energy currents Lyra wielded so effortlessly. Together, they dispatched the simulated enemies with increasing efficiency. Your progress is remarkable, Lyra said as the simulation faded. The training chamber returned to its neutral state, its crystalline walls humming with contained power. Few non-Asterians have ever achieved such harmony with our technologies. I had a good teacher, Raven replied, noting how her presence seemed to brighten at the compliment. Over the past weeks, he learned to read the subtle ways her inner light reflected her emotions. Though I still don't understand why the Void Hunters haven't made another attempt. They must know I survived. Lyra's expression darkened slightly. They're waiting, gathering their forces. What they seek on Earth, it's not just an artifact, Raven. It's the key to our people's greatest mistake. She led him through the twisting corridors of the Asterian palace, their path taking them to a secure chamber he'd never seen before. At her touch, the walls became transparent, revealing a vast space filled with what looked like torn pieces of reality itself. 10,000 years ago, the Asterian Empire discovered something extraordinary. A way to access parallel dimensions, to draw power from the spaces between realities. We thought we could control it, use it to elevate all species to a higher plane of existence. The fragments of broken space rippled, showing glimpses of other worlds, other possibilities. Raven saw Earth as it might have been, a paradise, untouched by war, a wasteland devoid of life, and countless variations between. The Void Hunters were once like us, Lyra continued, her voice heavy with ancient regret. They volunteered to explore these parallel dimensions, but the exposure changed them, twisted them into something that no longer remembered what it meant to be part of this reality. They became obsessed with finding ways to break down the barriers between dimensions entirely. And the artifact on Earth could let them do that, Raven concluded. But why Earth? Why hide something so dangerous on a primitive world? Lyra turned to him, her eyes reflecting the fractured realities around them. Because your species was unique, unpredictable, Even our most sophisticated models couldn't predict human development with any accuracy. We thought this randomness would help mask the artifact's presence. A soft chime interrupted them, a priority message from the Asterian High Council. Lyra's expression became guarded as she accessed the communication. "The Council is demanding I return to the capital," she said after a moment. "They're questioning my decision to involve a human in our affairs. Some believe we should simply evacuate the artifact and let the Void Hunters have Earth." Raven felt a chill that had nothing to do with the chamber's temperature. It'd sacrifice my entire species. Some would. They fear change, fear the possibility that humanity might surpass us one day. Lyra stepped closer, her voice dropping to barely a whisper. "There are factions within the Council who have never supported my protection of Earth. They see humans as too volatile, too prone to violence. They're not entirely wrong," Raven admitted. "Our history isn't exactly peaceful." "No," Lyra agreed, "but your capacity for sacrifice, for protecting others even at great personal cost, that makes your species worth saving. You proved that on Europa Station." The memory of that day still burned bright. The desperate fight to keep the quantum transmitter online, the certainty that he was going to die to protect a stranger. Now that stranger was a queen, and he was caught in a political game that spanned galaxies. "What do you need me to do?" Lyra's next words carried the weight of worlds. "I need you to help me deceive my own people. The Council believes I saved you out of mere curiosity, that I'm studying human resilience. They cannot know that I'm preparing you, preparing humanity, for what's coming." "And what exactly is coming?" "War," she said simply. "The Void Hunters aren't just searching for the artifact. They're gathering allies, species who resent Asterian influence, civilizations that want to reshape reality in their own image. When they strike, they'll target Earth first, trying to force our hand." Raven processed this, his tactical mind already analyzing possibilities. "How long do we have?" "Months, perhaps. The Council's hesitation works in our favor for now. Their debate over Earth's fate distracts them from realizing how close the enemy is to finding the artifact." She reached out, her fingers brushing his temple. "I shared knowledge with you that could condemn us both if discovered. The Council would see it as treason." "You're their queen," Raven protested. "Surely that counts for something." Lyra's smile held no humor. "I am a constitutional monarch, Commander. My power exists within carefully defined limits. Limits I'd already stretched by bringing you here." A thought struck him. "That's why you were alone on Europa Station. You were operating without the Council's knowledge." She nodded. "The Void Hunters weren't the only ones I was hiding from that day. If certain Council members had known I was personally investigating Earth's defenses, they'd have used it as an excuse to intervene directly," Raven finished, "to take control of Earth's protection from you. And now you understand the true game we're playing." Lyra's form seemed to shimmer with suppressed emotion. "Every move must be calculated, every action disguised as something less than it is. One mistake, and both our peoples will pay the price." The chamber's lights pulsed in warning. Someone was approaching. Lyra quickly restored the wall's opacity, her manner shifting to the more formal bearing of a queen instructing a subject. "Remember," she whispered, "you are merely a curiosity, a human specimen being studied. Nothing more." But as the chamber doors opened to admit a delegation of Council observers, Raven caught the briefest flicker in Lyra's otherworldly eyes, a look that suggested he was far more than just a specimen to her. And that realization brought with it a whole new level of complexity to their already dangerous game. The price of truth. The Council chamber hung suspended among the spires of the Asterian capital, its transparent walls offering a view of the three suns setting in perfect alignment. Raven stood before the assembled Council members, his enhanced senses picking up the subtle currents of energy that betrayed their agitation. "You claim this human has mastered our combat protocols in mere weeks," Councillor Venn said, his crystalline form refracting light in patterns of skepticism. "Forgive us, Your Majesty, but this strains credibility." Lyra sat upon her throne of living crystal, every inch the regal queen. Then test him yourself, counselor. Unless you fear being bested by a member of such a primitive species. The challenge hung in the air like static before a storm. Raven kept his expression neutral, though inwardly he marveled at Lyra's strategy. She was using their own prejudices against them, counting on their pride to blind them to her true intentions. Ven rose, his form shifting into combat configuration. Very well. A demonstration. Then, the chamber's center cleared, energy barriers forming a combat arena. Raven moved into position, calling upon everything Lyra had taught him about Asterian combat arts. Ven struck first, his crystalline form fragmenting into a dozen sharp-edged projections. Raven didn't try to match the Asterian's supernatural grace. Instead, he fought like a human, unpredictable, adaptable, combining his military training with his new understanding of energy manipulation. When Ven tried to trap him in a prismatic cage, Raven used the energy patterns to redirect the attack back at its source. The demonstration ended with Ven yielding, his pride visibly wounded. But Raven saw the calculating looks among the other council members. They weren't just evaluating him. They were reassessing humanity's potential threat level. Impressive, a new voice called from the chamber's entrance. Though perhaps too impressive, Grand Inquisitor Thala swept into the chamber, her form a dark mirror of Asterian grace. Raven felt Lyra tense on her throne, though she showed no outward reaction. Inquisitor, Lyra acknowledged. We weren't expecting you until the next lunar alignment. Events have forced me to accelerate my schedule. Thala's attention fixed on Raven. Our deep space arrays detected a Void Hunter fleet entering the solar system. They're heading for Earth. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices, council members arguing about intervention protocols and containment procedures. Raven looked to Lyra, seeing his own concern reflected in her eyes. How long? He asked, cutting through the chaos. 3 days at most, Thala replied. But that's not the most troubling news. We've detected energy signatures matching the artifact's resonance. It's becoming active. Lyra rose from her throne, her voice carrying the weight of command. Then we must act now. I request emergency powers to coordinate Earth's defense. Request denied. Thala interrupted. In fact, Your Majesty, the Inquisition has evidence suggesting you've exceeded your authority for some time now. She produced a holocrystal that projected images throughout the chamber. Lyra on Europa Station, her unsanctioned visits to Earth, secret meetings with human leaders over centuries. You've been protecting them without council approval, Thala accused. Interfering directly in human development, sharing forbidden knowledge. And now we find you've brought one into the heart of our civilization, teaching him our most closely guarded secrets. I did what was necessary, Lyra stated, her voice level despite the gravity of the accusations. The Council's inaction would have doomed not just humanity, but countless species across reality itself. That is not your decision to make, Ven interjected. We have protocols, traditions. Traditions that will get everyone killed, Raven cut in, unable to remain silent. The Void Hunters don't care about your protocols. They'll tear reality apart to get what they want. The chamber fell silent, shock rippling through the council at his audacity. Thala's form darkened with barely contained fury. This is exactly why humanity cannot be trusted with power, she declared. You have no respect for order, for proper hierarchy. Your species acts on emotion, on instinct. That's exactly why they're our best hope. Lyra interrupted. She descended from her throne, moving to stand beside Raven. Humanity's unpredictability, their ability to adapt and overcome impossible odds. These are strengths, not weaknesses. These are the words of a queen too close to her test subject, Thala said softly, dangerously. I move for an immediate vote of no confidence. Her Majesty's judgment has been compromised by her attachment to this human specimen. The energy in the chamber shifted, and Raven realized with growing horror that this had been Thala's plan all along. The Void Hunter fleet, the artifact's activation. It was all a calculated move to force a confrontation. "You knew," he said, understanding dawning. "You knew about the artifact's location all along." Thila's form rippled with dark satisfaction. "The Inquisition has many secrets, human, including the truth about why our queen has been so interested in your species." Lyra stepped forward, her light blazing. "You dare. The Council should know, shouldn't they?" Thila pressed. "About the genetic experiments, the selective breeding programs, the careful cultivation of certain bloodlines. Tell them, Your Majesty. Tell them why this particular human adapts so well to our technology." The truth hit Raven like a physical blow. He looked at Lyra, seeing millennia of secrets in her ancient eyes. What is she talking about? But before Lyra could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the capital. On the horizon, reality itself began to tear open as the Void Hunter fleet arrived far ahead of schedule. The time for truth and consequences had run out. The war had begun. Echoes of eternity. Reality fractured across the Asterian capital's skyline as the Void Hunter fleet emerged from their dimensional rifts. Their ships were organic nightmares, each one a twisted mass of matter that shouldn't exist in normal space. The city's defensive barriers flared to life, but Raven could see they weren't designed to handle this scale of assault. "The artifact," Lyra said urgently, turning to face the Council. "It's not just a key to other dimensions. It's a beacon calling to those who were lost between realities. And now it's fully awake." Thila's dark form rippled with triumph. "As planned, the Inquisition has long known that only by drawing them all here could we end this threat permanently." "You're going to get everyone killed," Raven snapped, his enhanced senses picking up the strain in the city's defensive grid. "Those barriers won't hold against a concentrated attack." "They don't need to hold for long," Thila replied. "Only until we can activate the purge protocols. We'll seal this entire sector of space, trapping the Void Hunters in a dimensional lock. Earth will be lost, but the rest of reality will be saved." Lyra's light flared with barely contained fury. "You've never intended to protect humanity. All these years, you've been planning to use Earth as bait. A necessary sacrifice," Ven interjected. "Humanity is young, volatile. The loss of one species to save countless others is not your choice to make." Lyra cut him off. She turned to Raven, her ancient eyes filled with sorrow and determination. "There's something you need to know. What Thela said about genetic experiments, it wasn't the whole truth." The chamber shuddered as another dimensional rift opened closer to the city. Through the transparent walls, they could see Void Hunter ground forces beginning to materialize in the streets below. The city's inhabitants fled in terror as reality warped around the invaders. "When we first found Earth," Lyra continued, "we discovered something extraordinary. Your species carried echoes of ancient Asterian DNA, dormant sequences that shouldn't have been possible. You weren't our experiments, Raven. You were our ancestors." The revelation hit him like a physical blow. "What?" "The beings you know as Asterians. We weren't the first to achieve dimensional travel. The civilization that came before us, that built the artifact, they were human. When their experiments went wrong, when the first Void Hunters emerged, they scattered across time and space, seeding worlds with their descendants. Some evolved into Asterians. Others remained human, protected by the very randomness of their development." Another explosion rocked the chamber. The council members were fleeing now, their forms streaming toward emergency shelters. Only Thila remained, her dark presence a challenge to Lyra's authority. "A pretty story," the Inquisitor mocked, "but it changes nothing. The purge protocols are already initiated. Earth's destruction will seal the dimensional rifts permanently." "No," Raven said, understanding flooding through him. "The artifact isn't just a beacon. It's a bridge, isn't it? A way to restore what was broken." Lyra nodded. "The first humans built it as a failsafe, a way to heal the damage done to reality. But it needed both sides of our shared heritage to activate. Asterian energy manipulation and human adaptability, working in perfect harmony. Which is why you saved me, Raven realized. Why you trained me. You weren't just preparing humanity for war. You were waiting for someone who could help you activate the artifact properly. I've waited millennia for the right person, Lyra confirmed. Someone who would sacrifice everything to protect others, who could adapt to our ways without losing their humanity. The artifact doesn't need to be destroyed, Raven. It needs to be completed. Thela moved to stop them, but Raven was faster. His training with Lyra had prepared him for this moment. He channeled energy through his enhanced systems, creating a barrier that trapped the Inquisitor in a prison of her own crystalline form. How? He asked Lyra. How do we activate it? We'll need to get to Earth, she replied. But the dimensional distortions, a normal ship would never make it through. Raven looked out at the chaos engulfing the city, at the tears in reality that grew larger by the moment. Then we don't use a ship. The Void Hunters are creating bridges between dimensions. We can use their own rifts against them. Lyra's expression was both proud and pained. It would be a one-way journey. The energy required. Even with our combined abilities, I don't know if we'd survive. Better to die trying to save both our peoples than live, knowing we could have prevented this. Raven held out his hand to her. Together. She took it without hesitation, her light intertwining with the energy flowing through his enhanced systems. Together. They moved as one, drawing power from the very distortions threatening to tear reality apart. Raven felt his consciousness expanding, touching the vast network of dimensional energy that connected all of space and time. Through their joined hands, he could sense the echoes of that ancient human civilization, their hopes and fears encoded in the artifact they'd left behind. The journey through the dimensional rift was like being unmade and remade with every passing second. They emerged above Earth, where the artifact's power had created a storm of temporal energy. The Void Hunters were converging on it, drawn by its siren call. They remember, Lyra said softly as they descended through the maelstrom. Part of them remembers being human, being Asterian. That's why they're drawn to it. They're trying to come home. The artifact hung suspended over Earth's North Pole, a crystalline structure that pulsed with familiar patterns. Raven recognized them now. The same patterns he'd seen in Asterian technology, in human DNA, in the very fabric of space-time itself. How do we complete it? He asked, even as Void Hunter ships began to surround them. We remind them of who they are, Lyra answered. Her form was beginning to fade, the energy required to maintain their dimensional transit taking its toll. All of them. Human, Asterian, even the lost ones. We show them that separation was never the answer. Raven understood what she wasn't saying. It'll burn us out, won't it? Using ourselves as conduits for that much power. Her smile was radiant even as her light dimmed. A final sacrifice, to heal wounds countless millennia old. Are you ready, my Star Walker? He pulled her close, their energies already intermingling. For you, my queen, anything. They touched the artifact together, and reality held its breath. Through their joined consciousness, Raven could feel the truth of their shared heritage, the pain of separation, the hope of reunion. The artifact responded to their combined essence, human adaptability and Asterian energy manipulation, working as one for the first time since the schism. The light that exploded outward was visible across dimensions. It caught the Void Hunters in its embrace, not destroying them but transforming them, helping them remember who they had been. The dimensional rifts began to heal, not through destruction but through understanding. As his consciousness began to fade, Raven saw glimpses of what their sacrifice would achieve. Humans and Asterians working together, healing ancient wounds, reaching out to the stars not to conquer but to reconnect. The lost ones would return, changed but remembered, part of a greater whole. Look, Lyra whispered, her form now pure energy intertwined with his. We did it. The artifact's light engulfed them completely, And in that final moment of transformation, Raven understood that some sacrifices weren't endings at all, but beginnings in disguise. Their energy would become part of the bridge between worlds, between species, between all the scattered children of Earth's first starwalkers. Together, they became light, became memory, became hope. And somewhere in the vast expanse of healed reality, their story lived on, a testament to the power of sacrifice, the strength of unity, and the eternal truth that love transcends all boundaries, even those between the stars themselves.